So good morning, everyone. So today for the fibromyalgia and chronic pain group, we've got myself and Marianne from Doncaster, and we've also got David from IAPT. We're just waiting for Glenn, who is going to do a session on sleep today. I think it might be worth going to yourself, David, first, if Glenn is struggling to log in. So again, David is from the IAP team, so I'm just going to hand over to David.
Okay. Hello there, everybody. The reason I'm involved in the meeting today is to just make people aware of our service and explain a little bit about what we do. Basically, I work for the IAPT long-term conditions team, and IAPT stands for Improving Access to Psychological Therapies. And what we do is we support people with long-term conditions, such as fibromyalgia, with managing their condition, but also supporting them with their mental health. When you have a chronic pain or the kind of medically unexplained symptoms like fibromyalgia, that can have a significant impact on people's lives. And what we do is we provide psychological therapy to support you in managing your condition. The way that it would work is you make a referral into the service via the single point of access, and I'll give you that telephone number shortly. What they would do is they would speak to you initially, get a bit of an idea about what the problems you're experiencing are, and then you would be booked in for an appointment with us. Now, obviously, with the COVID-19 situation, we're not seeing people face-to-face currently. What we can do is we would be seeing, we can arrange video chats like this, or we can do work over the phone. And what we do is we provide a therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy. Some people may have heard of that. Cognitive is your thoughts, behavior is what you do or what you don't do, and how they relate to your physical and emotional well-being. So what we tend to find is that if I've got anxiety or depression, that can impact significantly on how we cope with our long-term condition. And fibromyalgia, there's a bit of a loop, because when you're in pain or when you're exhausted or when your muscles are aching, the likelihood is that that's going to cause you some sort of depression or anxiety. And then when the more depressed, the more anxious we get, what tends to happen is that impacts more on our fibromyalgia and our management of that. You find that when you're more anxious, your pain receptors are more likely to pick up on the pain that you're experiencing, which then makes you more anxious, which then flares up your fibromyalgia more, which makes you more in pain, and so on and so forth. So we look at supporting people and teaching people techniques to manage with their mental health, which in turn, theoretically, can have an impact on their fibromyalgia. So if you are interested in this, it's a therapy that we provide. They're on a weekly basis that we do these. It's one-to-one. The sessions are around about 45 minutes to an hour. And as I say, it's over the phone or through the video conferencing. If you want to wait for face-to-face, we can do, but obviously with COVID-19 at the moment, we're holding fire on that until it's safe to do so. So if you wanted to make that referral, the telephone number is if you want to grab a pen or if you want to make a note of this.
I'll have to go and get a pen. Sorry, just a minute.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just for people to know.
Okay, so I've got a pen.
Lovely. So if you wanted to make a referral, the telephone number is 01302 566 999. And that number will get you through to the single point of access team. They will talk you through it. You then get a referral made into our service. The waiting list to be contacted by our practitioners is actually quite short at the moment, because I think with everything else that's going on, people have got other things and they're maybe not referring to the service as much, or they're not aware that this service is still running. So you should be getting seen very quickly if you were interested in doing that. And as I say, we provide CBT techniques. It's guided self-help, so there is a bit of kind of in-between session work. It's not just a chat. It's actually, the theory being that we train you to become your own therapist and that you can manage your condition going forwards. We have a specialist lady who deals with, she actually delivers a fibromyalgia group. Similar kind of setup to this. We're also doing a video that we can actually deliver to people so that they can learn a bit about fibromyalgia and how it impacts on your mental health and vice versa. So we're actually very much into the realm of fibromyalgia and medically unexplained symptoms, and we've got a lot of understanding about it. So if you are interested and you feel that this has impacted on your mental health, which I would imagine for a lot of people this has, then that would be the service to, our service is the one to refer into, and as I say, we can help you with that. Has anybody got any questions on IAP long-term conditions, or any questions about psychologically how this can impact on people or anything like that at all? Any thoughts?
Am I the only patient here? Are you?
There's some more people.
There's some more people on there, yeah.
Everyone's microphone is on mute, so if you don't want to talk, you can type in the chat section, because I know Denise has, or if you want to unmute yourself and chat and just ask a question, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Oh no, I just thought I was because I can only see like.
No, if you put your finger on your iPad, scroll to the side, you see more.
All right, okay. All right, okay, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Not on your own.
So if I rang these people up, do I just say that I've been referred, or I've got the number from yourself, David?
Yeah. So what happens is, if you say, if you ring them up and say, look, you know, depending on what the problems are, but let's assume it's anxiety or depression. You ring them up, you say, look, I'm struggling a bit at the moment. My anxiety is going through the roof, or I'm feeling down. I've been on this Doncaster, you know, the meeting, the video group, and David was on there, and he said I could make a referral to the IAP long-term conditions team. And then what they'll do is they'll run you through a series of questions. It's normally about 10-15 minutes max over the phone at that particular point. And then from that information, they will then determine that, you know, whether or not you're suitable for our service. Generally speaking, you will be, if that is the case. They put you through to us, and then you get contacted by us for us to put you in for that telephone assessment or video assessment. And then we take it from there. So we kind of guide you through it, really. The first session that you have with us is an assessment. So it's basically to find out what's happening for you, how it's making you feel, what you're doing to cope, or what you're not doing to cope, what you're thinking about your fibromyalgia and how it's impacting on you. And then from that, they put together a personalised plan of how we can support you going forwards. As I say, it's weekly or fortnightly telephone appointments. So there is a commitment, obviously, for you to be able to attend those. And what we do is we do in between session work, which is really vitally important. So it's not you just kind of ring in for a chat. There'll be actually things that will agree with you, and we'll say, right, well, why don't you try this? You know, let's have a look at trying this out, because we think that would really be, the evidence shows that this is really going to be beneficial for you. Generally speaking, you work 6 to 8 sessions. So they do these guided self techniques. It's not forever, it's a limited sort of therapy. If it was that your problem was more severe and we felt that you needed additional support, then you can be referred for a high intensity cognitive behavioural therapist, which is what I do. And again, we would be looking at the amount of sessions that we'd be offering and things like that. But it's psychological support whilst all this is going on, that we feel actually at the moment a lot of people aren't aware it's there, and maybe they're not taking advantage of this, because we would imagine that this is impacting on people's mental health significantly at the moment. So that's kind of how it would work. Any other questions at all, or? No?
Brilliant. Thank you for that, David. That were really useful. So like I said, please get in touch if you're finding you need some extra support. So again, thank you so much. We're going to head over to Glenn now, who is logged in to today's meeting to give you some sleep advice. David, if you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to, if there are any questions at the end.
Yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
So, should we head over to Glenn?
Hi folks, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. How many people have we got on the call?
I'm just inviting one more in, who's just logged on.
Yeah, we've got 8. on the call at the moment, and I
8.
know there's one other try, and she's just having internet problems. But yeah.
Oh, okay.
Got
Yeah,
it.
that's good. Good. Okay.
I think,
So
4 have fibro or chronic pain.
4 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess really just wanted to start with a bit of interaction, really, and just find out. You know, it's interesting, sleep, isn't it? Because we all have an element of sleep deprivation from life in some way or another, and I'm interested to find out, you know, how it's impacting people. So it'd be nice to just sort of get, if people feel comfortable, just a small explanation of what you're experiencing with your sleep and why potentially it could be an issue for you. So, I mean, we can even involve people that are on the call as facilitators or support workers, because actually I think sleep is a really, really under represented important factor of our lives, and it impacts us all greatly. So I'd be really interested to involve as many people as feel comfortable. So there's no pressure, just sort of how you're experiencing sleep and what your belief system around your sleeping patterns is at the moment would be great. So I don't know, I'm just wondering if I just work in order. I'm not quite sure. The names are not coming up as I hover on your screen. So maybe if I go into a different view, I'll be able to see you all. Let's have a look. Yeah. So I've just got Well Doncaster host as the first one.
Hello.
Hi.
So yeah, I'm Faye from Well Doncaster. At the minute, if I'm honest, I am, in terms of sleep, awful. I've always been a terrible sleeper anyway. Actually, me and my colleague Marianne were talking about sleep the other day. Absolutely terrible sleeper, and I know for a fact if I'm an early riser as well, so towards the end of the day, my fatigue is awful. I'm really, really drowsy, really narky. So it's and throughout the night, I get I haven't got fibromyalgia, but I do get intense pain in my shoulder sometimes. So I know that wakes me up majority of the time. But yeah, and sleep, like you said, Glenn, sleep is so important for our health, and it's one of the probably the main factors for everybody on this call with fibromyalgia and chronic pain, which is probably the thing that they struggle with probably the most. So yeah, that's my thought for sleeping.
Fantastic, that's really good. Yeah, just to remind everybody, if you can just give us a brief sort of intro for about that time, that's the perfect amount of time, and then we don't get lost in somebody's story. But it's really interesting to understand that actually some of the facilitators and general people, I think, across our communities are sort of struggling with sleep. So it's really interesting, it's not just the clients. Great, thank you. I've got Claire next. Claire's next in line. I don't know if you're able to see the list down, but you can just speak freely.
I struggle with sleep on and off. Sometimes I sleep really, really well, and other times it can take me a long time to get to sleep. I find that I do get groggy throughout the day sometimes, but I think that's the tablets that I'm on. But I find I tend to sleep lots or need lots of sleep. But I've always, since being a child, been a person who like needed quite a bit of sleep.
Okay, great, thank you. Next one's David. I don't know how David feels, if he wants to join in.
I'm actually quite good with my sleep. I've got when I'm struggling mentally, I tend to stay up later. That's the thing for me. It's almost like I'm avoiding the day after. So I'll stay up later to prolong having to get up and deal with the stresses of the day coming ahead. So I've noticed that if, generally speaking, when that happens, I'm then knackered the day after. And and that then starts to become a bit of a loop for me. So I try and, obviously doing the job that I do, part of it is we do look at sleep hygiene, and so I try and practice what I preach as much as I possibly can. But yeah, on occasion when I'm particularly stressed, I'll notice I'll avoid going to sleep, and that can cause problems for me the day after.
Yeah, interesting. Great. Thanks. Thanks, David. Marianne?
Yeah, a bit like Faye said before, I've always struggled with sleep. I found at the moment dreams and nightmares becoming very vivid.
Okay.
And sometimes I am waking up in the middle of the night, and then, like, I think it was either Saturday or Sunday night, and I was awake for 2 hours just in the middle, and then I got back to sleep. It was all right, but I've always struggled getting to sleep, and then I've not so much waking up, but I have found that over this time, and I've heard it from other people as well, that dreams are becoming quite vivid and strange as well.
Sure.
Just to let you know, I was just gonna, I don't know if, can you see the notes? Because Denise has shared something, and I just didn't know if can you see the Zoom chat?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
So I don't know. To make you aware that she said that she's waking up several times during the night due to pain. Waking up
pain, wake up feeling exhausted. Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well. Yeah.
Right.
Great. Julie?
I'm finding it quite difficult. I am waking up really, really tired. I think I'm sleeping okay. But I'm still waking up really tired. But I'm obviously not sleeping okay because I'm looking at my Fitbit and it's saying I'm not sleeping okay. But I'm finding it difficult because I'm not working at the moment either, because of this, obviously this situation. So I'm at home on my own all day. So I'm sort of like not being as, I've got no interaction in the day because my husband works long hours. So I've got no interaction with my work colleagues. So I'm finding in the afternoon, I'm sort of like really, really exhausted. And I'm trying to keep awake because I know that if I do go to sleep, there's no chance that I will go to sleep at night time.
Good.
No chance whatsoever.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Has Denise spoken? Denise gave us the message. So maybe, have we covered everybody? Yeah, Julie.
Denise is here now.
Okay, great. Yeah.
I struggle falling to sleep. I've found wearing earplugs help because my partner's snoring. But like my Fitbit says, I'm waking up several times in the night and I wake up feeling shocking every morning.
Great, thank you. Thank you. And then I've got our tab.
Me, Linda. Well, I will, but Linda's my name. Yeah, I have trouble sleeping. I can be tired, go to bed, and then I'm wide awake. And then I wake up through the night in bits, and then I can't get up in the morning. And I'm tired now.
Okay.
I've always been doing sleep, so I'm used to it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. It's really nice, and I think it's always good for us to be able to listen to sort of shared stories that are similar to our own. And I think that's really important when you're kind of managing long-term conditions, is that you don't feel so isolated. It's not just you. And actually, as we can hear, it spills over into the wider population. And particularly now with COVID-19, Marianne mentioned about vivid dreams. And I think very loosely, without sort of adding too much doom onto this, we're all living in uncertainty. And uncertainty will make your unconscious mind present possibilities to you which sometimes feel uncomfortable. And that's the job of the unconscious mind, is to protect us. So what I do is I have a journal at the side of my bed, and I get a lot of material from my dreams, and I try and make sense of them with the notepad. So what I'll do is I just might write down some vivid pictures or a loose story that I experienced in a dream, And then the next morning, before I actually move into my day, what I'll do is I'll try and disseminate that and say to my unconscious, you know, what were you trying to teach me? What were you preparing me for? And sometimes just that recognition that actually it wasn't necessarily a bad dream, but that it was a positive preparation for something that may happen. It can be really relieving for you to sort of disseminate the unconscious mind. And what it does is it just gives you that freedom that nothing's trying to harm you. And then when you go to bed the next night, if you've had a few difficult dreams or uncomfortable dreams, then what can happen is you can create this loop where there's almost a fear of going to bed. You know, oh, what if I have that dream again? Or what if I can't sleep? You know, and that's just a spiraling negative sort of impact that can sort of keep perpetuating itself. So yeah, it's really good sometimes just to be able to write down what you're experiencing. Another thing that was mentioned was these electronic devices, Fitbit. I actually have a sleep device on my finger there that you can see, and it's called the Aura Ring. And what that does is it tracks my sleep, so I know where my REM sleep, I know where light sleep and deep sleep's coming into the evening. But what I would say, and what I've noticed is, if I'm having sleep issues, or if there's higher stress levels in my life at that moment, I don't check the sleep monitor. So what I do is I just stay away from it for 2 or 3 days, and then when I'm back to sleep, I go back and have a look at the results. I'm not sure if Fitbit allows you to do that, but what I found was exactly the same with the dreams, is if I did have a difficult night, and then I was constantly checking my Aura Ring and the data from that, and it was negative, then I would start getting into a very loose, it's a very, very subtle form of panic when, you know, because you know, oh, I'm not sleeping. It's that unconscious sort of confirmation, oh, I'm not sleeping. And then your language and your approach to everything that you do in life is governed by sleep. And then it becomes this perpetuating vicious cycle again. So, and just on that note, actually everything that we do does sort of benefit from our sleep. So you'll notice when you've had a good night's sleep that you do feel amazing the next day and you can get a lot more done. And I've heard a couple of people say, you know, sometimes when they're waking up, they're feeling really groggy. And I understand that. The best thing that I've been doing for that is just sort of working with that to the best of my ability and still getting out of bed. I think if you roll over and sort of fall slave to these lull periods, then it really can impact you, and you can tend to knock out what's called the circadian biology. And I don't know how long I've got, but what I have done is I've put together a little mind map and I've pulled together an article around sleep. I'm very happy to get the emails off everyone from Marianne. I can send some information on a Word document about techniques that I've learned about from different people across the world, and then also techniques that I'm implementing and practicing now. But just to confirm, how long do you want me to keep going? Because I do have a mind map I can move through, Marianne.
Sorry, I was just putting the email address in for people to send their emails to. I'll do that in a minute. Just for as long as you want. We've got. There's no kind of. I know with the fibro groups we tend to have a cut-off point, but there's just however long people feel comfortable sitting, however much you've got to share, really.
Sure. Okay. Can we try, if I give you a screen share, I'm going to try it. I'm not that familiar with Zoom, but if I just try a screen share. I
make you co-host, you should be able to do that. So I'll just quickly do that now.
Okay.
I've made you co-host. Are you able to screen share?
Yeah, I'll just try that. And what I would say is, as I start talking, I will pause, and I'm very open to people sort of asking any questions. If I get too deep on anything, just sort of pull me up. I've tried to keep it nice and basic, but if there's anything that shouts out to you, and most importantly, I think if anybody connects with a particular thing that I speak about that's actually working for them, or something that they'd like to try, then any input is really valuable for the rest of the team. So it's not just about me delivering what works for me, it's just stuff that I've learned. So it'd be really interesting if people can sort of get involved and share. So what have I got here? It's,
sorry, just to let you all know, you're all on mute at the minute. So if you just type in the comment box if you've got something to share, just because the feedback of the noise is bouncing a little bit, and I'll unmute you, or just unmute yourselves when you've got anything you'd like to share. Sorry about that, Glenn.
That's okay. So can we see the mind map? Can everyone see the mind map? Yeah, yeah, okay. You can all hear me okay, yeah? Okay, great. Yeah, it's difficult because everyone's on silent now, so I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing that's really most important for me is life choices. You know, it's how we're spending our time, and you know, your unconscious really knows exactly what life choices are more suitable or more harmonious with sleep than not. And so, you know, a really, really nice, simple exercise that I do on a regular basis, really just checking in, is just find out what's working for me and what's not working for me at the moment. So I have a sleep diary, and what I'll do is I'll just write certain things that happened that day that I can reflect back to either a good night's sleep or a poor night's sleep. So just sort of recognizing what's working and what's not working for you. And then you can begin to start forming new habits. So we know that habits are formed based on our belief systems, but the habits that we do on a day-to-day basis actually formulate our belief systems. So if you believe that stress is causing you to have a lack of sleep, then whenever you're stressed, that will happen. And so what we do is we start training the body to fall into certain patterns based around our habits. And so a really nice way of approaching that is just a diary and write down what's working for you and what's not working for you. Yeah. And we know that sort of life sometimes gets in the way. So what I've put underneath there, and I'm going to send this out to people, is what can I and what can't I change? So there's certain things that goes on in life on a daily occurrence that we have control over to the best of our ability. So I'm really interested in finding out what happens in my life that I can control, and then what's happening in my life that I can't control. And obviously at the moment, we're all faced with something that we can't control. So that's having a big impact on many areas of our lives. So that's part of the diary. So just sort of writing down and connecting into how can I structure a better sleep sort of plan, if you like. Yeah. So I've split this into 3 sections. It's something that I do with my work, and I'm going to send you out a link to our website, which has got a health questionnaire on there, and it's very simple. You join, you sign onto the website, and you just click take the health questionnaire, and basically there's 3 sections. Those sections are biology, psychology, and social, and I'm just going to run through those really quickly. So the biology is the nuts and bolts of your body. It's the bones, it's the muscle structures, it's the organs. And obviously one of the big things that impacts that is diet. Now, I could do a full session on diet. In fact, I could do a full session on each of these titles. So I'm not going to drill down on each one too much. But one of the things that really does impact sleep, and one of the things that I've been testing and refining constantly over a long period of time, is finding out how diet affects our biology, because the biology is affecting the sleep. And remember, everything that we do really is we are looking back at sleep as being the underlying factor for our resilience and for our way of just engaging with the world, because it impacts everything, it cascades down. So if someone was going to ask me what was the most fortuitous thing in life, it would be actually sleep. So it's interesting that everyone's deprived of the most important ingredient in all of our lives. So yeah, going on to diet, I'm happy to do a session on that, ask questions, and just sort of give you some support on there. But it's just briefly to cover the biology. And if you do the questionnaire, it does drill down and it gives you some indications of what might be more beneficial with regards to diet. The other one is circadian patterns. And circadian patterns or circadian rhythm is something that you may or may not have heard of. Has anybody heard of this? Can I ask? Can you just put your hands up if you've heard of it? No. Okay. So circadian patterns or circadian biology really is all about harmonizing with nature. So as human beings, we have a set pattern of responses to what nature presents to us. Okay, and this affects our hormones, it affects our nervous system, and it affects how we engage with life and also other people. So the circadian pattern really is based on the sun and moon cycles. And we have a natural rhythm, and what we've got to try and do is balance our natural rhythm with the rhythms of nature. Okay, and it's very, very simple, because if you look out of your bedroom window and it's light, then really you should be up, awake, moving to the best of your ability, or at least having some form of mental or physical activity. And then of course, when it's dark, that's time for closing down and resting. Now, the 2 points, so that's really simple. Of course, that makes sense and everybody knows that. But there's 2 entry points, and that's where dark turns into light and when light turns into dark. And those two points there are opportunities for us to balance and harmonize our circadian rhythm with nature. So at the moment, the sun's rising about 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. in the morning. And so where possible, and everybody's going to scoff at this and go, oh my God, this sounds, you know, it's too much for me. But where possible, we begin for the body to start awakening or moving to the best of our ability. Now that's a really, really difficult one when the body was still moving and still very active when the sun was setting. So if you were awake after 10, 11, 12, or you were just falling asleep then, or trying to fall asleep then, it's very unlikely that at 5, 6, even 7 a.m. you're going to want to awaken, get up out of bed and enter the day. So it's those opportunities that we try and harmonize with. And it starts sometimes with almost having to stay. If someone's got severe sleep deprivation, then a nice way of falling into that harmony is to try and stay up as late as possible until you really, really feel tired. And it may even mean, and I've tested this myself, and it's not very nice, it's quite uncomfortable, but if you know anxiety and you learn how to make peace with anxiety and how to work with it, then the anxiety of being awake all night, knowing that you're reharmonizing your circadian pattern, is well worth it. We don't want to fall into a stress state, and I can talk about stress as well, but if you're able to harmonize with the circadian patterns of nature, then you're more likely to get the most out of your sleep. So in the article that I'm going to send out to you, I talk about alpha waves, delta waves, and the different parts of the brain which get regenerated by deep sleep. And it's really important that by about 11 or 12 o'clock, we're experiencing a deep trance state of sleep. And if you're staying up late in the evening, sort of checking emails, watching videos, keeping yourselves occupied because of stress or because, you know, you're anxious about sleep, then we're missing that opportunity to reset the circadian pattern. It's not easy, but I think it's really, really important. And actually, it's critical for you to know about that, because actually it's the way of reharmonizing sleep, is falling into a line with nature. How does that sit with everybody? Does that bring up some discomfort or any irritation in the mind? Everyone okay with that? Yeah, okay. So exercise is another really interesting one, isn't it? Because a lot of people have got these long-term conditions, but again, this crosses over right into the mainstream. You know, I don't label any health condition whatsoever. You know, people are either in balance or out of balance. And I speak to a lot of professionals that are absolutely out of balance. They're just managing to keep, you know, the plate spinning or the ball in the air. But actually, they've got quite a dysfunctional approach to life. And potentially, if they don't become aware, then they're heading towards more of a long-term stress kind of outcome. And it's the epidemic of our population at the moment. So actually, I feel that people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, you know, sometimes it's the body, it's just giving some symptoms that need really addressing and that need adjusting. And then when we can fall into a harmony or an acceptance of our situation at the moment, then we can begin to start bringing more movement and more sort of acceptance and more enjoyment out of life, depending on what those
I'm not sure. Glenn's disappeared a second. Has he disappeared for everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, I've lost him.
Yeah. So yeah, is there any questions that anybody has at the moment in time? His screen is still sharing, so he might be able to jump back in when he comes back on. Any questions? No. How's this?
Sorry.
Sorry.
I was just going to say this might be a good time just to reinforce that this group is for you, and whatever you want to hear from, what will benefit you, basically. So like the email address and the number I've put on the thing, if you just text any feedback you have or anything you'd like to hear more about next future weeks. I know that I missed some of what David was saying at the start, but Kerry Davies from IAPT was actually going to come on the call next week, and she was thinking about doing something to do with kind of pacing yourself. But she did offer to kind of do whatever fits in with what you'd like, and I know that Glenn's mentioned a few things that he could do sessions on. So if you either let me know on here, or if you want to email anything that you feel would benefit yourselves, just let us know, really, because this group's about getting what you need out of it. So feedback's really useful.
Maybe we should use this time as well to maybe just discuss with one another anything that you've been experiencing, maybe in terms of sleep or anything else that you want to share, and just chat to one another.
Thanks, Denise. You unmute people, maybe.
Yeah, I'll unmute everyone, and then we can have a little chat about any experiences. Sorry, I forgot to unmute you all. That might help. So we can have a little chat amongst ourselves until it comes back.
I mean, I would just, the only thing I would say is, and then everyone else can have a chat, is I would reiterate what Glenn has said there in terms of the association of bed and sleep. And that's, again, something that we look at in our service as well. So what he's saying is, you know, that it does make sense from a CBT point of view as well. Kerry will be discussing pacing, which is really, really important for management of chronic pain or chronic tiredness chronic fatigue, because that again ties into the sleep pattern side of things as well. So if if it does impact you, I would strongly recommend attending that session with Kerry, because she's got some really good information. But I'll pass it over to you guys now to have a bit of a chat about how it's impacting on you, if that's okay. But I just wanted to kind of add that on the end there.
Thank you, David. So is there anybody who wants to just chat about anything that they've been experiencing, or anything that they want to, anything at all?
Yeah, can I say something, please? Obviously, I've tried to use this time while we're in lockdown to try and lose some weight, do some exercise, to come out fitter and looking better. But I found I've actually made myself worse. The pain's so much worse now. And I think it's a fine line. I do try to do pacing. But I find sometimes you don't know you've done too much until the next day. So it's knowing how much or how little to do. And that's what I really struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a pacing point of view, what we tend to find is that when you're suffering from a chronic health condition such as fibromyalgia, what happens is you'll have boom and bust days. You'll have days where things are a little, it tends to be, not for everyone, but you may find that you have days where it's better than others. And what people tend to do is they go, do you know what, I'm feeling not so bad today. I'm going to do all those things that I've not been able to do. So what they do is they go around and they do all the housework and they do all the things that they've been putting off, and they crash because they've totally overdone it. They've gone way above and beyond what they should have done. And then for the next 3, 4, 5 days, they're completely laid up in agony or tired out or exhausted or whatever impact that may have had on that individual. And then they lay there feeling guilty that they're not able to achieve the things that they would have been able to do normally. So what happens is when your body starts to recuperate, you start to feel better, you're then straight on it again. You're trying to achieve the things that you've missed out on the last 3 to 4 or 5 days. And what we get is this kind of roller coaster of boom and bust, where I can't do anything. I've crashed. I'm feeling better. I'm going to do all those things that I want to do, and I crash. And then I stay down for a while, and then I'm starting to feel better. So I do all those things, and I crash. And what Kerry will speak about in a bit more detail is this concept of little and often, almost this kind of keeping yourself at this level rather than this roller coaster. Because your productivity tends to be impacted on a lot more when you do those days when you do everything in one day and then crash for 3 or 4 or 5 days afterwards. If you find that you're actually able to pace yourself with a bit of support, that is, you'll find that your productivity is actually more achievable, and actually you're able to get a sense of achievement in the respect that you've successfully managed your condition better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what Kerry will go on, and she'll talk through all that with you. And I suppose this relates to this session as well in the respect of sleep, because if you crash in and fibromyalgia, it impacts on people in different ways, but vast majority of the time we're talking sort of muscle pain, tiredness, brain fog, lack of concentration, all these kind of things are impacted on people. Now, if you put sleep on top of that, where you can't sleep, then you are in trouble. Because if I don't know about you guys, but if I've not slept the night before, I'm slower, I'm irritable.
Yeah.
I pick up on things more and more sensitive to things. Now, if you're more sensitive, whether that's physically and emotionally, and you've got fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain problem on top of that, then that's going to multiply by 10. And that's where the boom and bust thing continues and is maintained for people. So as I mentioned before, if you feel that's relevant to you and that actually the boom and bust side of things is something that's impacted on you, then that's something we could look at from our service. And I can see Glenn's come back.
Okay.
He's back.
Hi guys, sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
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 Okay, yeah. It's interesting. I've got a spare adapter for the internet, and I'm now using just a basic connection. But for some reason, it dropped out. So I'm not sure how much you got of the last part. Do you want me to continue, or were you carrying on having a chat, or?
I think if you could finish what you were doing, yeah, we lost you. You'd finished your patterns. I'd have to look at the.
Okay.
Yeah, if we could just finish that bit off. We were just talking about future weeks and what people would like to hear from, and David was speaking about a little bit about pacing and things like that, which Kerry will talk about next week. But we've got someone else as well now.
Okay.
Yeah, if you.
So
I've just popped you all on mute again, just so the connection's better, and hopefully, Glenn, it'll be all right for you as well. So I've just popped you on mute again. If you want to add anything, just press unmute on your thing, or just type in the comment box.
Sure. So I don't think I'm on screen share anymore, but I can send this out to people anyway. So I don't know if you want to make notes or whatever.
I'll pop you on co-host again so you can screen share.
Okay, yeah.
And it should have done it.
Well, Glenn, I'll just let you know I'm going to have to get off now because I've got somebody due at 12 o'clock.
Sure.
So I'm going to get off and I'll leave you guys to it. But thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Thank you,
great.
David.
All right, then.
Thank
See
you,
later,
David.
guys.
It was really good. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so yeah, I've got lots of learning to do with all this online sharing and stuff. So yeah, I was on with exercise really, and I know David's probably just had a chat about pacing. For me, really, the thing that shouts out with regards to pacing is for you to test small and measure big. So it's really just about trying to do movement as best you can, and then monitoring the impact of that. And I'm sure most of you are aware of post-exercise malaise. So what we know in these kind of long-term conditions is that sometimes we don't get a response from the body until the second day. So sometimes the measurement window needs to be expanded into a couple of days. So, but I would sort of urge that we do try and expand that exercise window as best we can. So the next thing that's on the mind map is relaxation, and you know, relaxation's got to involve joy for me. So it's really what brings joy into the life, and I think that's really important because for me, I found, you know, sometimes relaxation can be another thing on the to-do list, which it puts pressure on. So it's really finding something that just takes your mind away from sort of general life and this idea of being unwell, and, you know, am I doing something in order to get myself back to well, or is it just something that I absolutely love? So on the psychology side of things, which I'm sure David's going to cover quite a lot more with people, is purpose is really important for me. So it's really sort of finding some purpose in each day. And sometimes bringing joy to another person can be a really good thing with regards to purpose. So not necessarily looking for your particular purpose in life, but how was your day purposeful? Because if we're talking about sleep, really, at the end of the day, we're looking at relaxing into our bed, having had a productive day. And sometimes it's really, really frustrating if we're not sort of productive and we're not achieving targets or goals. But sometimes if you can switch that and just say, you know, how was my day purposeful in the sense of supporting somebody else or sharing some of my knowledge, or, you know, helping somebody. So purpose is really good, and it gives us that sense of satisfaction, and it makes us feel like we're part of, you know, a bigger coexisting ecosystem and not just isolated on our own, trying to sort out our own problems. Also on psychology, I put fear of failure, and the fear of failure is a bit like the exercise type of thing. Another thing that will sort of satiate your body and your mind at night time is just knowing that you're stretching yourself to develop or grow in a way that's conducive to improvement, as opposed to falling into this mindset of oh my God, things are never going to change, why me, you know, and feeling quite down about yourself, because that's a very, very heavy mindset, and that will sort of come into more activity at the early hours in the morning. So I spoke about circadian patterns, and 4 a.m. in the morning is when the mind potentially can be most active, especially when you've got things that are stressing it. So if you've got certain things going on in your life that are sort of sitting in the background that are unaddressed, then 4 a.m. is when they'll pop up their ugly head. So, and you may notice that. You may notice sometimes you wake up really early and you just can't get back to sleep, and you're trying to move and shift your thoughts into different areas, but that one thing keeps coming back and biting you on the bum. You know, it keeps letting you know that it's there. So that's the time of opportunity. And just to sort of, I mentioned earlier about having a journal, you know, sitting down, journaling, and just beginning to understand what is it, what's underlying between my day-to-day activities that's still undealt with. So it's that stuff that's undealt with which actually runs the show. And once you begin to orient yourself with that and align with that, then you can clear those cobwebs out, and then the mind can relax more. So that again is part of relaxation. Then there's a social section. The social section is a lot more difficult at the moment, but I'm sure a lot of people will also recognize that the social side of things in their home, especially if they live with people, has been heightened slightly. So the dynamic between human beings at the moment has completely shifted. So for me, it's been interesting because I live with somebody, and we've sort of had a different dynamic because some of the times he's not at work, you know, I've got my own space, he's got his own space, and we're sort of maneuvering around each other. Same goes for relationships. You know, I've heard a few people in relationships that have been struggling. So it's beginning to understand the dynamic, and then so again, just sitting with that dynamic and beginning to better understand it as opposed to fighting it. So how can we sort of show up for that other person? And each of those sort of relationships actually do filter back into the psychology and the biology, because the brain chemistry begins to change when there's conflict. So when there's conflict, we know that the digestion suffers. We know that sort of the mind begins to ruminate. And so, you know, they all have a knock-on effect. So social is very difficult at the moment. And just personally, what I've made a point of doing is just contacting someone every day that I don't normally contact. You know, and that's not necessarily a Facebook like, but I just go through my phone and kind of think, oh yeah, he was a mate of mine, but I haven't been in touch with him for ages. And I just send him a bit of a text. And then the other day, one of them actually gave me a call. So he said, oh, I was going to call you back. I was going to text you back, but I decided to give you a call. And an hour later, we were still chatting, you know. So it's really nice just to sort of stretch yourself in areas and say, okay, I'm not getting the social contact that I used to, but where can I get some social contact? So this kind of thing, you know, what chat rooms can I join? What groups can I join? And it's really all about circle of influence as well. So what's been really important for me is to sort of begin to understand who my friends are and who my support mechanism is. So there's a phrase that says, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it's not that easy with family. So we don't get chance to choose or shape our family, but we do get chance to shape our circle of influence. So sometimes, you know, when you've got long-term conditions or when you've got things going on in your life, not everybody wants to listen to them. And so it's important to be able to create a network of people that can actually allow you to express and that also understand, you know, your situation. Hence why these calls, I think, you know, are so important. So I've put health challenges on the other side. You know, it's a bit like the diet side of things. It's really beginning to understand the condition. How's it impacting you? What are you doing that's working and not working? So, and that's again, going back to this test small but measure big. So just putting small incremental changes for development, moving in the right direction, for me is really, really important. And that's been part of my recovery. Just to finish off, I put setting the scene, and the title of this sort of work that I did was Sleep Transformation or Transaction. And this is really, really important. And it's the foundation of loads of my work, really. We do lots of things in life which are transactional, okay? So we believe that if we do a certain thing, that we will get a certain outcome, okay? So that's okay, but a lot of the time what we tend to do is do transactions that feel nice or that sit with us in that moment, okay? So transactional awareness is about really beginning to understand, am I just sticking a plaster on this, or am I creating behavioral change? Because it's the behavioral change which allows us to support long-term conditions and allows us to put us to go back onto the road of wellness. So transformational change is when you're really doing something that's changing your beliefs and your behavior. So I'm really interested in sort of developing people with coaching, really beginning to understand how the unconscious works, beginning to understand patterns for short-term gain and long-term gain. So there's probably quite a lot in that that's in depth, and I can drill down on it sort of like working with individuals. But what I put over the other side, setting the scene, is more transactional. So what we spoke about earlier is transformational. So these things that I spoke about earlier can transform your life. With regards to transactional, setting the scene for sleep is more about sort of sleep hygiene. And it's all this idea of, you know, blackening out the room, making sure that the temperature's right, making sure that you're comfortable. You know, these are all transactional. You do something and you get a result. But you can't live just on transactional engagement alone. I think what we need to do is also look at the transformational stuff. It's the transformational stuff that changes our habits and our behaviors. And it's really important to be able to understand and define the two. Otherwise, we're constantly sticking plasters over everything. And those plasters come in a huge array of forms, from food to drinking, to you know, socializing, to checking our Facebook page, to, you know, seeing if anybody loves us anymore. Why haven't I had a phone call? There's so many different areas of transactional things that we do to get a lift, but that don't actually change the terrain or that change our experience. So I just broke their activity before bed, and that brings me back to relaxation, really. What I noticed is if I can close down my day at about 6 o'clock. So by 6 o'clock, I want to have eaten. By 6 o'clock, I want to have done any work that I've got to complete. By 6 or 7 o'clock, I want to have understood anything from the day which has caused me any confusion, complications, any kind of conflict that I've had with anybody, and I want to have resolved it to the best of my ability. Then I want to be bringing in the relaxation, doing something, mindfulness, meditation, watching a movie, reading a book, and then considering this circadian pathway that I mentioned, which is sort of closing down the light that enters my body. So I'm not going to be online. I'm going to be using natural light, and I'm going to start swinging towards more candlelight, or I have an orange light in my bedroom. And that just sort of brings the mood down a little bit and eases you towards more of a parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system switches over and it becomes more leaning towards sleep as opposed to activity. And again, this is the circadian biology. Yeah, so there's a lot there. I'm sorry we cut out, but that's a sort of quick overview. And like I said, really, where am I engaged with these things, and where am I, and what could I be doing better, and constantly working to refine sleep, because that is the pinnacle of our healthy lives, really. Okay, thanks.
That was fantastic, Glenn. Thank you for that. It's really insightful, and it was I found it really useful, especially with the well, from my point of view, especially the setting the scene bit. I don't know about you lot, but sometimes you just get into bed and you just don't really think about that kind of things. And but yeah, it were fantastic. That is there any questions? No, from Denise. No. Brilliant. Well, thank you ever so much, and that were fantastic, Glenn. If you do have any questions for Glenn, if you just email the Doncaster at doncaster.gov.uk, if you just email there, and we can pass questions on to Glenn, and we can send out the information that he was on about. He's going to send out as well. Like we said, next week we have got IAPT coming to talk about more in depth what David were discussing. But again, if there's anything that you think, do you know what, I want to know more about this, or something else that Glenn has brought up and he said he can go into more detail about, like the diet, etc. If there's anything that you think, do you know what, I want to hear more about that, please just let us know and pop it in the email. Is there anything else, Marianne or Glenn, that you want to mention?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention one thing, which I think is really, really fundamental in this sort of sleep kind of conquering quest that we're on, really. And that is you will find that if you don't sleep, it's okay. You know, don't so much give yourself a hard time. I've had numerous evenings I've been finding that I'm just not sleeping. I've been going through some personal stuff and it's impacted on my life. And then I've gone, oh, you know what? The next day I'm still okay. I can function, I can get out. What I do is I turn down the energy dial. So I don't do as much. I'm really, really cautious about what I eat. And I just try and take things really nice and easy, whatever's to me on the day that I've not slept. But it's really important that you just slow down and give yourself a break. If you're not sleeping, then sleep will come back. Because what I found is when it becomes an anxiety that I might not sleep, then I'm feeding into sort of more lack of sleep. So it's really okay if you don't sleep, and just take that pressure off yourself, you know, as long as you can relax as best you can and communicate to other people, you know. I didn't sleep so well last night, so if you can just bear with me, I might be a little bit slower today, you know, and just acceptance is a really, really good tonic. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
So true, especially like you said, with communicating it to people. We've all been there when we're not being able to sleep, and we just get up the next day and don't even know our own name. So everybody will understand. Which sometimes we feel like, oh, it's a bit of an excuse. Oh, I didn't sleep last night, but it's not. It is a valid point to have, and if that's the actual case, then make sure you are saying that to people, that, do you know what, I didn't sleep, just bear with me. But yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. So anything from yourself, Marianne?
No, I think you've covered it. Just get in touch if there's anything you need, anything you want to be brought up in future sessions. And thanks to Glenn.
Yeah, thank you so much, Glenn. You've been fantastic.
Thank you. Well, this is the first time that I'm doing sort of like online stuff, so I'm still getting used to the technology and everything. So we'll see where it goes. I
really like the mind map. I think seeing things it helps you rather than just listening sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's good feedback. Thanks.
No, thank you. And thank you to everybody who's joined today, and we hope to see you again next week.
No, not next week.
Not next week, week after. I need sleep. Right, I'll see you in a fortnight.
Bye. Thank you.